Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been to the grocery store lately, you know exactly how crazy the bills have gotten. The sticker shock is absolutely real, and honestly, it's putting a massive strain on household budgets everywhere. But there is a safety net designed specifically for this, and today we're going to walk through a clear step-by-step guide to securing Maine SNAP benefits. We're going to completely take the stress and the guesswork out of the 2026 online application process so you can just focus on what matters most.
So let me ask you right off the bat, are you struggling with your grocery bills right now? If the answer is yes, I just want to immediately validate your situation. You are not alone in this, and it's exactly why these programs exist in the first place. The whole goal of this explainer is to simplify the often intimidating bureaucratic process of getting government assistance. We're going to cut through the red tape together and get you on the absolute fastest path to putting food on the table.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. First, demystifying Maine SNAP. Then, we'll navigate the eligibility rules, go over your pre-application checklist, and walk through the step-by-step application. Finally, we'll cover overcoming application challenges and managing your SNAP benefits once you have them.
All right, Section 1, Demystifying Maine SNAP. Before we get into the paperwork, let's establish exactly what this program is and how it functions locally.
In Maine, SNAP, which stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is officially known as the Food Supplement Program. Now, when you're approved, you don't get physical stamps anymore. Instead, you get an electronic debit card called the Maine Pine Tree Card. It works just like a regular bank card at most grocery stores and even a lot of local farmers markets. This program helps low-income individuals, families, seniors, and people with disabilities free up vital budget space for other essentials, things like rent or medication. To put that into perspective, the average older adult receives about $188 a month just to help with groceries. That's a real game changer for a tight budget.
And who's actually running the show here? Well, the program is managed by the Maine Department of Health and Human Services, specifically through their Office for Family Independence. Establishing this is important right up front because any official communication, portals, or letters you get are going to come from the DHHS. This is the official system we'll be dealing with today.
Moving on to Section 2, Navigating Eligibility Rules. Let's see how this builds into figuring out if you actually qualify for these benefits. So Maine actually has special expanded rules called broad-based categorical eligibility. What this means in plain English is that households can apply if their gross income is at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. For 2026, that means a single person making up to $2,069 a month, or say a family of 4 making up to $5,359 a month could still be eligible. The biggest takeaway here? Please do not self-disqualify. So many people assume they make too much, but Maine's limits are explicitly designed to be flexible.
Now, here's where a lot of folks get tripped up: gross versus net income. Gross income is literally every dollar you earn before taxes hit. Net income is what's left over after allowable deductions. Why does this matter? Well, because if your gross income looks just a bit too high on paper, deductions for high housing costs, dependent care, or if you're a senior or have a disability, out-of-pocket medical expenses over $35 can significantly reduce your net income and help you qualify anyway.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part are the exceptions to the standard rules. For instance, seniors 60 and over and people with disabilities have way more flexibility and are actually totally exempt from work requirements. On the flip side, if you're what they call an able-bodied adult without dependents, often referred to as ABAWDs, between the ages of 18 and 64, the 2026 rules generally require you to work, train, or volunteer for 80 hours a month to keep your benefits long-term. Also, crucially, even if you're a non-citizen currently facing federal waiting periods, you might still qualify for state-level help under Maine State SNAP.
All right, Section 3, your pre-application checklist. Let's gather your documents before we even touch a computer.
I'd actually highly encourage you to pause the explainer right here and take a screenshot or jot this list down. You're going to need a photo ID, birth certificates, and social security cards for your household, and a proof that you actually live in Maine, so something like a utility bill or a lease. You also need proof of income, which usually means your last 4 weeks of pay stubs or award letters for things like Social Security or unemployment. Finally, grab those medical and shelter expense records we talked about. Having all this proof ready on your desk prevents some seriously frustrating delays later on.
Part 4, the step-by-step application. With your documents in hand, I'll be your guide through the My Maine Connection website.
The absolute fastest way to apply is online at mymainconnection.gov. Step 1 is a quick pre-screening tool just to confirm you're on the right track. Step 2, you'll create a secure account. Step 3 is filling out the actual application with your household details. And Step 4 is uploading those documents we just gathered. Now, I want to reassure you, you don't technically need to upload every single document right that second to hit submit and secure your application start date. However, uploading them immediately does drastically speed up your approval process.
Section 5. Overcoming application challenges. Let's be real, government portals can definitely be glitchy or confusing, so let's jump into some preemptive troubleshooting.
Look, if you get stuck online, don't panic. You can just call the official DHHS hotline at 1-855-797-4357. You can actually apply entirely over the phone with an eligibility specialist if you prefer that. Also, if the online document upload tool isn't working for you, you can simply email your required copies directly to farmington.dhhs@maine.gov. So you're never actually stuck. There's always a backup method. So you hit submit. What happens next? Standard processing takes up to 30 days, but there's also a 7-day expedited window. If you are in an emergency situation, specifically if your monthly rent and utilities are higher than your gross income, or if your income is less than $150 and you have less than $100 in the bank, Maine DHHS is legally required to process your application and get you emergency food assistance within 7 calendar days.
Finally, Section 6. Managing your SNAP benefits. We need to talk about what happens after you get approved and how to keep your Pine Tree card active.
So the crucial point here is staying proactive. First, shortly after applying, you must complete a phone interview with a caseworker. Do whatever you can to not miss this call. Once you're approved, you need to report any major changes in your income or your household size. You also must complete your recertification paperwork when it arrives in the mail to keep those benefits flowing. And here's a really important tip. Any unused money rolls over to the next month, which is great, but you must use your EBT card at least once every 9 months, or you will literally lose those accumulated funds entirely.
Quick heads up before we wrap things up. While we've made our absolute best efforts to ensure all of this 2026 data is completely accurate, government procedures, income limits, and work requirements do change. Please always verify your specific details directly with Maine DHHS or official government resources to ensure you have the absolute latest information for your specific household.
And that brings us to the end of our guide. I want to leave you with a thought, a pretty important question. Who in your community could benefit from a full pantry this month if you shared this explainer with them today? Navigating SNAP doesn't have to be a lonely or confusing experience for anyone. Share this knowledge, empower a neighbor, and let's make sure everyone in Maine has access to the food they need. Thank you so much for learning with us today,